show today, a young Irish woman who set her sights high from the very start. Currently the only Irish woman to complete the Motorsport Ireland Academy programme and the only international female driver, she can be seen competing in both the Junior ERC and the ARA championships.
Aoife has just been announced as one of our first two Dirtfish Women in Motorsport drivers.
I feel like maybe people are underestimating Aoife.
1, go.
A true advocate for young women in the sport, and as part of our Women in Motorsport series, we welcome Aoife Raftery. Hi Aoife, how are you?
Good, Drew. How are you keeping?
Yeah, not so bad, thank you. Thanks for joining us. I know you're quite busy, so I do appreciate you dropping in and having a chat with us today. The whole point, obviously, as you know, of this interview is really to inspire and to inform women thinking about getting into the sport of rallying, in fact, in motorsport in general. And we will come to that. But before we do, I just want to just go over your career highlights, if that's okay, because you are making quite a big name for yourself, it has to be said. You only started, though, about 5-6 years ago. Do you want to tell us where your story began?
Yeah, for sure. I actually suppose how I first got into rallying was when I was younger, I used to go and I watched my brother and my dad compete. So I have had the background of it, but I never seen myself doing it based until I was older. So when I was 18 years of age, that's when I actually sat in the co-driver's seat for the very first time. I did a couple of rallies on that side of the car, and when I was sitting in the car, I kind of understood a lot better what rallying was from inside, rather than being a spectator, let's say, and from the outside. And when I was sitting there, I was looking at what the driver was doing, and I said, that's definitely something that I could definitely give it a good go at. So in 2021, I did my first ever rally in a Fiesta R2 1.6. And that was the Nicky Greer stages as a round of the British Rally Championship.
Yeah, I think you ended up doing the British Rally Academy, didn't you, that year, which was almost a stepping stone into the British Championship. So you ended up doing the full season.
Yeah, it was definitely, that was the category I was in, but it was definitely a great class to, I suppose, begin your rallying, because when you take the step into the British Rally Championship, it's quite a big championship, and to do it as your first ever rally was jumping in the deep end. But yeah, it was a great class to get into. It was for similar powered cars and for people that were kind of just early stages of their career. So yeah, it was definitely a good learning process. In the BRC, you got to do recce as well, which is an important part of development too. Yeah.
I mean, you're certainly no strangers to jumping in at the deep end, as we'll find out shortly. But what was the competition like in that class?
Yeah, it was good. That year, there was a lot of Irish drivers over doing the British Rally Championship. The reason I started in 2021 and at the BRC was COVID had happened at the time, and there was no rallies for like a year and a half. So I had actually entered my first rally a year and a half before that, but I wasn't able to do anything. So then when they came around and the rally started happening again over in the UK, that was the amount of Irish drivers over there was quite incredible. It was a really strong season as well with British drivers, but yeah, it was a really good class, and very strong that year.
Yeah, we do have some good stages here, I must admit. The track rod being close to my heart because it's my local. Yeah. So from there, you moved on and ended up doing the Celtic Trophy back home the year after.
We continued competing in Ireland, and that was just to build up seat time and experience, because I had started quite a bit later than a lot of my competitors that were similar age. So it was just to try and get that experience, get the understanding of pace notes better, develop driving skill. So we did a mixture of gravel and tarmac events.
Okay.
And we were runner-up in the Mixed Surface Championship in Ireland that year in our class. Yeah. And it was also then my first year in the Motorsport Ireland Rally Academy. So I developed a lot through that program as well.
You've obviously developed skills fairly quickly. How did you go about that? Because a lot of people will spend years in a car developing their skills and honing their craft. What was your journey like, basically, in your development for that?
Yeah, development, definitely for me, I felt like it progressed quite quickly, which is really good, because in the past couple of years, and it's led to more opportunities and progressing into international level. But for me, from the very beginning, yes, rallying is fun, and that's you're there to enjoy it. But I also took it quite serious, and I tried to do everything right from the beginning. Now, of course, you still learn so much along the way, and every rally you can always improve something to become better. But I really tried to take a professional attitude from the beginning. And I think that approach definitely helped me kind of escalate my career in a short time frame and get up the ranks as well. So yeah, I think trying to do everything as best as possible to my ability and preparation. I did a lot of recce practice before any rallying. Like, I had everybody out. I had my friends out. I had my family out that had no interest. Didn't know how to ride patience, but they learned just so I could get practice in calling what I seen on the road and getting used to that. So it was a lot of work from the very beginning. But rallying now costs so much money that if you're going to do it, you have to do it right. So sure. That was the approach, and it was always to put in the best effort that I could.
Is there much in the way of support for young drivers at that stage at the moment?
Yeah, like any discipline within motorsport is expensive, and it is difficult to get your feet on the ground to start, competing at this. But I suppose where we started was a more affordable in terms of cars to begin to get that experience. That was the idea of the Fiesta, the 1.6 Fiesta. It definitely didn't have the most power, but it was a great car to learn how to handle, especially on the gravel and tarmac, and build up that experience. But yeah, I think there's two sides to motorsport. There's your driving ability and that side of it and progression, but then there's also the funding side of it, being able to work with partners and, your reputation as well across social media and at events. And it's all part of the sport. You have to be able to work with them both hand in hand to be able to make new partners, continue with your partners. And when you have people come on board that believe in you and support you and want to see you do well and become part of the journey, it's really nice as well. And you just have to try and, I suppose, represent them and their brand as best as you can. And yeah, it's definitely not the fun side of rallying. It's going out looking for sponsorship, but it's part of it and it has to be done. And, I wouldn't be able to do what I do without my fantastic partners. So it's incredible to have them on board too.
Well, exactly. One can't exist without the other. It's just the nature of the beast, isn't it, essentially? And because of those partners, you've been able to make the step up to the European Rally Championship just a few years ago, which, to be honest, I don't think I've made much of a secret of saying that it's probably my favourite rally series of all. It's incredibly competitive with such a widespread amount of cars. And the driving talent in that series is amazing. It's second to none. Lots and lots of people certainly capable and in the shout for wins on every single round. What made you choose the ERC above, let's say, WRC2 or other rally series at that point?
The point, I was still quite early on in my career. So, it was, for me, even stepping into the ERC was still a big step. But of course, there's, a couple of reasons behind it. Looking at the ERC, it was a more, it was a realistic option that if we had the support from partners that we could go and do this. But as well as you said, it being your favorite championship, I could totally see why. And it's many people's, it's an incredible championship. The level of driving and drivers in that is just incredible. Like, it's so competitive. I was competing in the junior element of it, and it was in the front wheel drive. I was driving the Peugeot 208 Rally 4, and you can't get any higher competition in that category anywhere else in the world. So yeah, my skills as a driver have improved so much by being in that environment, competing against the best young drivers across the world. I've come on so much in my own ability, and when you see that and you see the experience that you get from competing in different countries, that was the idea, was to go and, go keep building on what I've been learning, progress as a driver. But it's also a great platform because, you're rallying in one of the highest level championships in the world in rallying, and, the credibility of competing in the European Rally Championship and getting that experience across so many different countries and events.
The key takeaway that a lot of people seem to bring up is almost the purity of the championship, how it represents real cars on the road. That still provides that kind of rallying purity for a lot of spectators that I think might be lacking in Rally 1 at the moment. But you also mentioned that you started in Rally 4, much like John Armstrong has fairly recently, over the past few years. And he's been able to progress through that championship. Is that something that you see yourself doing in a similar sort of time frame?
John Armstrong is a really great example of someone that has progressed through each level of rallying, and I think as well, it's showed the determination and hard work that he's put into this sport. Like, I don't know who you could compare that to. It's quite incredible that what he's achieved and where he is at now. And even this year, the performances that he's putting in, it's someone that really deserves it, and it's great to see. So yeah, if there was any way that I'd be able to follow, I suppose, in those footsteps, making that progress up through the ranks, then yeah, definitely that is the aim and that's the goal. And I think he's a really good example of someone who's kind of went and done it and achieved it. And being able to see that and follow that would definitely be the plan, yeah. We made a big improvement last year in terms of our pace. And then in the gravel as well in Hungary and Poland. In Hungary, we were sitting third overall for nearly most of that weekend in the juniors. And on the Sunday, we got a small little hole in the radiator in the front of the car, and we had to stop on the stage. And then once you stop, you're game over.
Yeah,
so we lost a few minutes, and it was a hard one to take, but it was nice to know that the pace was there on the gravel. And then we took that into Poland as well, and Poland is an unreal rally. Like, the stages there are just incredible. I really, really enjoyed it. They're so fast, but like they're technical as well. So we finished fourth overall in that rally, which I was very happy at the time with that, because we were very close to the top 3 times, and we had some top 3 stage times in the juniors, which was really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have a favourite round on the ERC at all?
It's either Sweden in the gravel or it's Poland.
Okay.
Yeah. The faster gravel rallies I really enjoy.
Oh, that bodes well for Finland when we get to that point then.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Hungary, to be honest with you, the gravel rallies are generally very good. Hungary was a great event. It's a pity to see that it's not happening this year.
Yeah.
But Hungary is a bit more of a lottery sometimes, because it can be quite rough. So you see a lot of people kind of suffer in that event due to maybe punctures or damage to the car as well. But it's all part of the game, and you have to try and manage that too.
Last year, though, you also made a change, not just for the ERC, and this is something that I want to go into a little bit more, actually, but you started in the ARA, the American Rally Championship as well, didn't you? How did that come about?
Yeah, that was a really good experience too last year, and we're actually heading over very soon. But last year, Josie Rimmer, who's head of Dirtfish Motorsport, the rally school, but as well as the Dirtfish Women in Motorsport driver program, that was set up at the beginning of 2025. But towards the end of 2024, we had been talking back and forth quite a bit. Our goals quite aligned in terms of what we wanted to achieve and what we wanted to represent for women in motorsport. We both had the same passion, and we both had the same idea on what we wanted to be able to do and achieve, and that was, okay, one, good to be able to be present on rallies and at events and on stages, but also be competitive and have, good results, get on the podium. And then by being present on events, we're also representing women in motorsport and trying to have a platform there for the young girls that are looking up and watching that might have some interest in the sport, whether it is driving or co-driving, but it gives them the opportunity to see what is possible and trying to kind of push that, promote it, and encourage it. So alongside the, obviously being at the chance that I got to drive at the events, there was a summit in May where Dirtfish had the likes of Leah Block and Claire Williams, the ex-F1 Williams team manager. So, being in that environment, and then, all of a sudden you have young girls coming up to you and asking you, how did you get started in the sport? Or, how can I get involved? It's quite cool and it's quite special. And I have to be able to, the likes of this, to share my kind of experience and how I did get into the sport and how I kind of progressed. Is important to share that story so that we can try and get, the young girls coming up into the sport too.
Absolutely. We still talk about the feats that Michelle Mouton managed to achieve in the 80s. And it's long overdue that we should be doing that again about a raft of people getting into the sport now, including yourself. I'm just curious as to how the culture in America is different to, let's say, back home. Rallying in Ireland is obviously hugely loved, and we have gone through that on a number of occasions in previous episodes. But how different is it in America?
Yeah, when I went over to my first event, I really didn't know what to expect in terms of how popular the sport was, would there be many spectators, the level of rallying over there. And I think I was quite pleasantly surprised by everything. A sport that is definitely growing in the US. It's not, Ireland is very well known for its rallying, and so is UK and a lot of countries around Europe, but America is definitely still growing and developing. But at the stage it's at, I was quite impressed with everything in terms of the stages that they have over there. People that were interested that you would see around Service Park, and Park Expose is over there, which is a really good idea. It's basically the morning before the rally starts each day, the rally cars are kind of on display, let's say in a park for me, and drivers all around. But people that are interested can come up and talk to the drivers and look at the cars, and it really gives that kind of more personal interaction, and it allows people to really see what rallying is about and get to know drivers. So it's a really good idea, and that element of it was really nice. Even this year, I can see a massive, let's say, improvement in terms of the drivers and cars that are going to be at the next event that I go to. It used to be a lot of, I suppose, home-built cars, a lot of Subarus, but we're seeing a lot more FIA homologated cars coming into the championship, which makes it a lot more interesting, especially for like Europeans to go over and give, I think it will kind of create an appetite like for people to come over and compete in that. We're seeing a lot of Rally 2s and Rally 3s competing in that championship. And that's great for me. Like I can benchmark off that, and I like to be able to compete in similar style cars that we're using here. So I think the American rallying is definitely, it's really, really improving quite quickly. And obviously there's a lot of talk about a WRC event happening over there, which would be really cool to see happen as well.
The American market is so big. It seems crazy that we don't have a representation in the WRC in America. I think we should, and I think it would actually be really good for the World Rally Championship as a whole in terms of its promotion and getting the word out there. I'm hoping that the community in America does grow and continue to grow, because we need to see that back again. One thing I've noticed with myself, though, is a lot of the females that I speak to all tend to be part of the rallying community or one or two steps away. So they know a driver or a co-driver or a mechanic or someone. I'm getting the sense that it's getting the word out to people that aren't necessarily involved or have a particular link in the sport. Getting the word out to them is quite a challenge. How would you suggest we improve that and we get the word out to a wider audience?
I think that it's really important that, women that are competing in rallying, and whether it's drivers or co-drivers that are trying to, get up the ladder a bit, it really needs to be kind of, I suppose, recognised a lot more, shown a lot more support. I think if you don't have any background in rallying or motorsport, parents do play a part in it, especially from a very young age. I think, if there's, you see, when you go to a karting event, you'll see young boys of 4 and 5 years of age, and they look like little bobbleheads going around with the helmet on and going karting. But from that point of view, I think, the parents need to step up a bit as well. And if there's a young girl there that shows any interest, or the parents are pushing their son into karting from a very young age, we'll do the same with the girl, just to give them the same opportunity from a very young age. And okay, yes, it's, you have to show interest yourself and want to do it yourself. But if, young girls are given the opportunity from a very young age, it gives them such a leg up later on in the sport. And they're not, I suppose, playing catch up then when they're old enough to go and chase it for themselves. If they're given the kind of opportunity when they're young, is definitely, I think, one of the most important ways to not only get more girls into the sport, but get them to the highest levels of the sport. Because now it's, you see Calais, Rovanpera, Oliver Solberg, who are, have won World Championship events at such a young age. It's just incredible.
And the key thing with all of them is they've started young. Yeah. Really, really young. And it's about seat time. And I suppose it's about opportunity as well, isn't it? We need to improve the amount of opportunity and the reach of those opportunities in order to get more people involved.
Yeah, definitely. And to create opportunities, it all comes down to funding and support and being able to back that. Because in rallying and in motorsport, if you don't have, budget allows you to go test and get seat time by doing more events. And all this it all leads to becoming a better driver, developing your skills. And I think from, support side of it and getting recognized for it as well is really important.
Well, you've just mentioned about support and funding, and hailing from Ireland, you've also got the backing of Motorsport Ireland, which frankly are head and shoulders above any other authority that I'm aware of in terms of the work that they're doing to support young drivers. And I really do hope that extends out to women as well. You are, however, I think I'm right in saying still the first and only female driver to be part of their rally academy. Is that still true?
Yeah, so that's true. In 2022, I became part of the Motorsport Ireland Rally Academy, and I worked with them for 2 to 3 years, and it was a brilliant experience. I learned so much being in that environment, and that also obviously helped me getting to the international stage in the European Championship, but also learning about how fitness plays a role, how nutrition plays a role. And you can clearly see, the support that they're putting into drivers like Josh McErleen and John Armstrong now at the top levels of rallying. It's quite impressive to see how far they've come and the support that they're giving to those drivers. And to be part of that was an amazing experience for me too.
Would you say that the opportunities provided by Motorsport Ireland are the same for women? Is it fairly even across the board?
Yeah, I had a great experience with the Motorsport Ireland Rally Academy, and I got some fantastic opportunities from it, and I got some experiences that I wouldn't have got otherwise. So being part of that and their support of me at the time was incredible. And of course, now graduating from that program has led to me continuing my rallying career, which has ultimately led to getting more opportunities and more experiences in the motorsport and rallying world. And yeah, their support has been, you can see compared to different ASNs across the world, they're really putting up a barrier of what support should look like for young and developing drivers in the country.
Absolutely, and I really do support them and applaud them for what they're doing. It's one of the very few sports, I think, that doesn't have that segregation between people, be it gender
it's
or race.
One of my favourite things as well is that it is a fair game, and it's just down to driver ability. It's not down to splitting it up to male or female, which is good for me because I wouldn't have many competitors. But it's definitely it's a really nice part of the sport I like because it's just based in on the stopwatch and the fastest stage times and your ability. So it's a very unique sport in that way, and there's very few I think across the world that is fair game.
Could you just take us through a typical day on a rally as a rally driver? What does it look like for you?
For a typical rally day for me, would often wake up quite early. For example, take a European Rally Championship event. It's a week-long event that you're gone for, because when you go and you travel to let's say Poland, for example, the week will normally start with a test. So test involves getting to know the style of roads in that country, getting to adjust your car setup to suit it, seeing what tires you're going to try and run in the event, depending on the weather, of course. So it's building a foundation for that particular event and trying to gain as much knowledge as you can. Yeah. Then on the following days, let's say Wednesday and Thursday, we'll spend those 2 days, the driver and co-driver, doing recce. Recce is where we create the pace notes that are used then in the rally. So I describe to the co-driver what I see in as little words as possible, but as descriptive as possible at the same time. And she'll write that down and call it back to me then, and I check them over. All good, all happy, we record them. So then the next few evenings, we're also spending all our time reviewing these and making sure we're happy with the pace notes, because in the rally, this is what I drive to. So the co-driver then calls me these notes, and I'm fully trusting what the co-driver is calling to me, and I'm driving to these notes. So in the event then, what a typical rally day would look like, we'd wake up early in the morning, we'd head to Park Fermi. Park Fermi is where the car is kept overnight to make sure nobody touches the car, does anything different to it. We'll head out then. We might have a tyre change in the morning, a quick service. So we'd pick the tyres that we're going to run on for the day. And then once that's done, we'd head out to the first loop of stages. And that could start, from 9 a.m. in the morning, let's say, and we'll do a loop of stages. That would look like driving on normal open roads. We get to the stage start. Co-driver has to do her work with the time cards and the marshals as well at the event. I wouldn't know so much about that side of it. And I'm getting prepared to get into the stage. So then we'll do a stage. Co-driver's calling me the notes and I'm driving as fast as I can from the beginning of that stage to the end of the stage. And then back onto normal open roads, and we'll commute then to the start of the next stage. And that might be 3 or 4 stages in the morning loop. And then after that, we head back into service, where any work that needs to be done to the car, if there was any damage done or want to make any setup changes, that the mechanics are able to do those changes. And I'll also speak with the engineer on the event, give him my feedback on how the car is feeling, what it's doing, how it's handling, and then he'll report to the engineer or to the mechanics if we need to make any setup changes that might help me and my driving style for the next loop of stages.
So how important is the technical aspect then? Because you just mentioned that when you go back to service, you relay your feelings to your engineer. How much technical knowledge do you need?
Yeah, well, I suppose if you're able to describe what the car is doing, that's really, really useful for the engineers, because they're normally very good at able to translate that into what needs to be changed on the car. So once you have a good feeling for what the car is doing, able to kind of report that back, whether you're having a problem on the entry of the corner or the middle of the corner or on the exit. And when you can kind of relay that information to the engineer, they're very good at being able to translate that into the technical side of it, and adjust the clicks or adjust, roll bars, anything like that might make it easier for you to drive. And when it's easier, of course, then better stage times come.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously you have a lot of data being recorded in the car usually as well, which all feeds back to them as well, so they can make the relevant decisions. But of course, a lot of that background work is all STEM based, isn't it? So, and I know that you're quite an advocate for getting people into STEM roles as well as the driving. Yeah,
I've had the opportunity this year and last year to speak at one of the largest STEM events for young girls in secondary school in Ireland. And it was really, really incredible to be able to speak at these, because yes, in motorsport, you've got your driver and your co-driver, but there's so many other routes into working as a career, having a career in motorsport. And that leads to engineers, mechanics, team managers, organizing logistics and transportation. There's just so many options and career paths outside of being in the rally car or being in the seat, that there's, and it's so important. I think so many people don't realize that too, that there's so many other roles if you want to be involved in motorsport but don't particularly want to be in the car, that there's a lot of routes that you can go down, and how the importance of STEM, as you said, plays into these roles. Rallying has developed so much due to engineers in the past few years. It's incredible how much that they're able to help the performance of a driver in the car. Same with mechanics. It's it's all part of the team, and none would work without the other. So it's
Absolutely. I have wondered actually how we get the message to school kids. It's not like we can get them out driving for obvious reasons, but getting the message to them, getting into schools, telling them about the sport and the opportunities that have arisen over the last few years, and about just how exciting it is and how rewarding it is. So the fact that you've had the opportunity to do that is great, but I think it would be great to see more of that, I think.
Yeah, definitely. It's great. This event, I suppose, is organised by some really passionate people in the industry. But as well as that, as you said, calling to schools and doing the school visits as well as, I've got the chance to even call to my local school, but it's definitely something I'd like to expand on and be able to kind of even bring the rally car into the school, get a real visualization of what a rally car is, what the roll cage, what the steering wheel, everything. Give the students, the young kids, the girls in school, the opportunity to see what actually is rallying.
Yeah, I think that's something to look into, and possibly try and expand on that in the future, I think. So what's your personal perspective been as a woman in motorsport? How have you found just being in the sport?
I suppose in one way I'm quite lucky in terms of I don't see myself any different. I'm naturally a very, very competitive person. So I've always have been. I used to play soccer in camogie, which is camogie is like a field sport here in Ireland that we play. Hurling is the male equivalent, but I was always very competitive growing up, so that led into rallying naturally. And I never once did I think about the lads they're lads. They're going to, I never had that thought process. So in one way, it's a great way to be. I always put it down to it's down to driving ability and performance. And I think that side of it is very, very good to have. And I think if you're a woman in motorsport, you also need to think very similar to that and be very focused and clear on what you're trying to achieve in the sport. And yeah, definitely.
What's everybody else been like, though? Because when I started the idea for this Women in Motorsport feature, I had actually wrongly assumed, generally speaking, that it was really tough in terms of the attitudes to from the establishment to women. And having spoken to a few people now, I've been really pleasantly surprised at the positive stories that are coming out. So how have you found that side of things in terms of your acceptance in the whole wide scheme of rallying?
Yeah, in terms of organizations and events, it's I suppose there's nothing, there wouldn't be anything special to it. I think that there's definitely still needs a lot more work done to try and encourage the, women participating in the events. Like, for last year, for example, in the European Rally Championship, top level championship, unbelievable. But I was the only female driver in that whole championship. And I think, maybe there needs to be kind of something to try and get more women into that championship and be able to compete in that at that level as well, because it is such a fantastic championship that we need to see more women in it. In terms of competitors' point of view, it's all the same, and I laugh at this because it's you might ask someone else for a bit of help, or an onboard, for example, to see what way they're driving, if they were faster than you on a stage, and asking them, because you want to learn from it and you want to become a better driver. And at the beginning, it's, oh yeah, no problem, happy to share. And then as you become quicker, then that's naturally... They won't share it, but in one way it's a good thing, because then you're also developing. So it's I
think that's the same for everyone, though, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. That is the same for everyone.
Fairly sure it was Seb Ogier, wasn't it, that was helping Oliver Solberg out, and then Oliver started matching him for times and beating him. He went, "No, you're not watching me anymore. You're all right." So that's just a natural competitorship. Yeah,
but it shows you're progressing. So. You don't mind in one way.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, I mean, in terms of, you've not had any negativity, is what I was getting at, as a woman in motorsport.
Look, it comes with it a bit, I suppose. You're never going to fully avoid it. But I try and really just focus on what I'm trying to do. I don't, okay, yes, there's always going to be a little bit here and there, and but I suppose I really do try to stay focused on what I'm trying to achieve and what my goals are. And as I said, being so competitive that it's quite easy just to focus on what I need to do to be able to achieve those goals. And it's at the end of the day, I'm still incredibly lucky to get the opportunity that I'm getting and to compete in European events in Ireland and the UK, and even getting to America. It's quite an incredible experience I'm getting, and I have to make the most of that too.
No, absolutely. I mean, I have heard a very similar story, actually, about just being hyper-focused. And I think that's probably true for everybody, especially if you want success in the sport. Is there a particular lesson that you've learned that has been really, really useful to you?
I feel like I've learned many a lesson in the sport. Unfortunately for me, sometimes I have to do something to learn it. But I think, is there any particular lessons? Everyone is trying to give you advice. Everybody will give you their opinion and what they think is best for you. And yeah, they don't mean any harm, but it's to try and pick a few people that you trust and continue and build that relationship with them, because you can't listen to everybody, and everybody has their own opinions. So you have to do what feels right to you and the couple of trusted people that support you and are around you.
Okay, that's a good piece of advice.
I
think that's a good piece of advice, yeah. So what are your plans for 2026 and beyond then?
Yeah, of course. We're still trying to put everything together in progress, but we actually travel over to the US for our first international event this year. I'm really looking forward to that. That's with the Dirtfish Women in Motorsport Driver Program, and we're running over there in a Fiesta Rally 3. And I actually have a new co-driver in for the event, so that'll be exciting. Hannah McKillop is sitting with me for the last couple of years, but she's actually not able to make it. So I have Data Kammersgaard from Denmark sitting in with me, and we actually did a local rally here in Northern Ireland at the weekend together, just to build that relationship and that trust before we head over to the big event and get thrown in the deep end. So it was really nice to share that experience with her, understand each other as people as well. I met her over at the European Rally Championship and was impressed with what I seen her doing in terms of, in between the stages, and of course then watching her on board as well. So I'm quite looking forward to, seeing how this goes and working together with her. And then after that we're back over again for the next round. And yeah, it's nice stepping into the Rally 3. I've had a lot of fun in the front wheel drive in the Peugeot, but of course in the 4-wheel drive in the Rally 3, that's a lot of fun too. So we're trying to build on that. In 2025, I was the first ever Irish rally driver to compete in an electric rally, which was really cool, and that was done with Opel Motorsport and Opel Ireland, supporting that. And to have a manufacturer sport like that was really, really cool and really impressive on what the electric rally cars can do. So it would be nice to be able to get back over there again to do something along those lines. But all the work is still in progress and still trying to make plans.
Okay, fair enough. How different is driving an electric rally car to something much more traditional?
Yeah, it was quite a bit different at the beginning. The noise is probably the main one, which is you get over quite quickly. The torque on it was really impressive. One thing as well that I didn't realize is because of the weight of the battery in the car, it's quite a heavy car, but the grip levels were insane. Like the amount of corners that you could take flat compared to the Peugeot Rally 4, let's say, for example, was quite different because it was so grounded and so planted to the road that it was like it was on rails going around corners. And I think when you look at the Junior European Rally Championship, and you see the likes of Kalle Carlsberg, who came through that championship, he won that electric cup, and that led him into the Junior ERC. And his pace in that championship, he was so dominant. He was such a good driver. And then he goes this year to the first round of the Junior World Rally Championship, and he wins it easy. Yeah. Like his ability as a driver is really, really strong, and I think we're going to see him go really far in the sport. But his foundations in that championship, and the manner that you have to drive in is you have to be very, like a very tidy driver, and very, carrying the speed as much as you can, because if you do kind of kill the car at all, you're losing so much on the streets, like in normal rallying, but you just suffer more in the electric.
Okay.
So I think the driving discipline that he learned, and that even I learned in the couple of rallies I got to do, it gives you so much discipline that you can then use that in, let's say, your petrol rally cars, in the Rally 4, the Rally 3, whatever it is. So I think it's a very strong championship, very good drivers compete in it, because everyone wants to get the chance to compete in the Junior ERC, and it gives them that stepping stone into it. So I would really rate it.
Very interesting to hear that, because we've obviously had the electric side with Rally 1 fairly recently, apart from the last year or two. But of course, there is an electric series, and there's a few around the world. So it's interesting to see how they compare, I suppose. Because for a lot of people, obviously, the noise and the smell, it's part of rallying for a lot of people.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think a lot of people would find that really difficult not to have.
Yeah, look, I think it's, everything takes time and adjusting to as well, and some people are set in their ways. But I was definitely impressed by what we rallied in the Opel Corsa last year and what that was able to do. And in December, then we went over again to test the new Opel Mokka, which is the rally car that they're using this year. And that was like, they made massive improvements in terms of what the electric rally car, like brakes were such an improvement on what it had been. So it was, between your torque and your braking and how it handled, it was very impressive.
Yeah. So planning for a little bit more on that then. Is there how much American rallying are you planning on doing then? Is it just as and when you can fit it in around the ERC? Yeah,
well, look, we're hoping to have a strong presence there, for sure. But we're going to see how this rally goes and work on it from that. And as I said, this rally that we're going to is 100 Acre Wood, very, very fast and very technical. going from the onboards. And the most rally it looks nearly similar to is like Sweden, because in terms of how fast it is, and but blind over your crests as well. So I think it's going to be a big, tough rally, but I think it's going to be a very good one if I can get the test and the pace notes all to work. I think, yeah, it's going to be a rally.
How do you get on with that? I must admit, that was a question I was going to ask, actually. I mean, Hannah's I think we can call her your regular co-driver, can't we? But that relationship between driver and co-driver, and again, you've mentioned it before about the trust. It's such a finely honed relationship. How have you got on sort of just sitting in with other people for the odd rally, or, just sitting in with them for an afternoon before doing an event? How has that been?
Yeah, look, I suppose, for example, last weekend we did the small rally at the 5 Mile Town, which was a gravel event, just for me and Dada to get used to each other. And yeah, you're right. Okay, it probably takes, it took the morning loop for us to gel, but to work together and, for timing and everything to get that right. Each driver likes how the notes are called differently. It's not the same for everyone. So the co-driver has to adjust to that too, which is probably not the easiest. But the only way to build that trust and relationship is time together. And the more you do together, the more that develops. Like with Hannah, who is out with me regularly for the past couple of years, like she knows what I'm thinking before I say it. And it makes my job so much easier.
Yeah.
Like she'll know exactly what I'm thinking or how I'm trying to describe something. Reads my mood very well. All these things that, like, I don't know, I suppose just time and that relationship builds. And same for that, like I can read her like a book as well, just that's how the relationship works. But yeah, the trust comes with it. And I must say with Dida, that came quite quickly last weekend, which is really nice for that to develop. Like, of course, it'll take more seat time for it to continue to become stronger and everything, but it was definitely a good starting point for us.
That's amazing. I've just got one more thing to ask. What's your message to anybody wanting to get into the sport, particularly young women?
For anyone that wanted to get into sport that has the interest, is obviously to try and get out there, attending events, getting a better understanding of what rallying is, for example, building a bit of a network and community around you, because everyone is so welcoming and so supportive of people that are trying to get into the sport. It's also to have the belief in yourself. You need to trust yourself. Women might struggle with it a bit more than men, to have the confidence in themselves to go and chase their dreams and chase their goals, what they want to do in motorsport. And I think if you can believe in yourself, everything else will start to come together for you. Other people will start to see what you're doing and what you're trying to achieve. And if you don't believe in yourself, no one else will. So you have to start with yourself and push on from there and try and, if I always say, if you really, really want it, you'll chase it and you'll make it happen. So,
no, absolutely. Right, that's amazing. Thank you very much for your time, Aoife. I really enjoyed talking with you today. And good luck with your 2026 rallies.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure to be on the show.
No worries. Thanks a lot, Aoife. Bye-bye.